Aha, caught you off guard.
No, you didn't, because I knew that we were playing the short intro tonight.
We've done some shorter versions of subject matter, and if I don't change back to the longer intro, we get the short but sweet. So hey, Justice Served TV is on the air. Hi, Linda, Kenney, Baden.
You know, all you missed was Michael riding a suitcase and
Alan Jackson saying, "Linda, I love you." Yeah, yeah. So.
Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Well, today in New York City, Michael, before we get to rip and read, the UN General Assembly, the 80th UN General Assembly went into session. And that means next week, because we have all like the underlings in New York City, which is why I'm not there and I'm working remotely, is all the bigwigs, the little league and the big league, as I like to say. And traffic is a nightmare. And where my office is a nightmare because the French delegation stays across the street and I can't even get out to walk Tubi sometimes. And there was one time that when George Bush was president, I was stuck at a parking garage because he was having lunch with somebody from Iran at that point. So, you know.
May we. All right.
Well,
okay.
I don't think they speak May in Iran, but that's okay.
So it wasn't across. I thought you said it was across from the French delegation.
No, the French delegation was May, right? The Iranian was not May.
So you're in your super secret mountain resort location. Okay. Before we do the rip and read, I have a follow-up gripe. You know, I did this morning, doing a little preview of what we have coming up tonight. But I started with my problems with YouTube. I got a lot of problems, but YouTube. I'm asking folks, if you have subscribed, to double check and make sure you haven't been unsubscribed just because the overlords at YouTube seem to do throttling. We know they do shadow banning. We went through that, but it's very hard for me to believe that we go from getting 1,000 new subs a week to 5 or 10 in a week. That, to me, that just seems bizarre. Now, I'm not arrogant enough to think that everybody should just be flooding on board and subbing, but you see that
if you're watching, this is a good segue to hit that subscribe.
Hit the like and subscribe button.
Okay, like, share, notify. But subscribe is important for you, especially because when those free memberships get given out, and usually they do during the show, you have to be a subscriber to get one. All right. So subscribe, share, like, and notify. Smash those buttons.
Yes. Okay. So my gripe is basically that YouTube pulls the strings. They control how this all works. And they take about 50 cents on every dollar that the creators give them. You would think with that, with that business model that they would be encouraging and promoting. But let's face it, humans have nothing to do with this. It's all the AI and how the algorithms vary over time. So it's a gripe that I can't can really fix, which is why it's a gripe, I suppose. Okay, so did you have a little something here?
Well, my little something was introducing me actually to somebody in rap I did not know, in hip hop rap, David. Okay, David became very famous because of an algorithm apparently in TikTok, and he's now got shows or had shows until a little problem. A body was found wrapped in, I don't exactly know what, in the trunk of his car in California, and it was a body of a 15-year-old that disappeared last year. And the mother of the 15-year-old said that her daughter had been dating somebody named David. Now, it's not spelled exactly D-A-V-I-D.
No, it's not. That'd be way too boring. So as I understand it, it's D4, the number 4, and then V-I-D, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So that's the Irish spelling, I think is what that is. So non-traditional. Okay. So yeah, he's got bigger problems than people remembering how to spell his name. I'll tell you that.
So that was my big rip and read because that his tour just kind of not got canceled, but he was supposed to be on another concert and it didn't go forward. And I wonder why. Possibly be. I mean, it's never good when a body is found in the trunk.
That will ruin your day, I'll tell you. Hey, I'm just thinking of this, and maybe if Missy has access to it, before we wrap for the day, I just watched for the first time the Oasis Cat 1-year anniversary mashup. Have you seen that?
Yes,
it's amazing.
I put it to I've been sending it to people. And as a matter of fact, we want to count how many hair colors and hairstyles I have in that one.
Yeah. Somebody commented you can always count on you having hairstyle changes and me rocking the same T-shirt. Like I got a lot of T-shirts. Yeah, there's one. I got a lot of T-shirts.
No, these are my hair. Here it is. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, if we get a chance toward the end of the hour, if Missy can grab that, I think it's well worth billboarding. It's out there on X, of course.
If you want to see it. I like my hair, and the woman who did suggest to me that she wanted me to have a purple rinse in my hair. She did personally send me a message to say she meant it all good. Good nature, right? That's what she meant. It's all good nature. John, Misdemeanor is watching, and I said thank you very much, but And if you can't see the highlights of my hair, it's because of the different lighting. This is not a professional studio like we're in NBC. We are in our home studios.
No, you don't want to be you really don't want to be in the big studios anymore because you could be fired before you know it. And the beauty of what we're doing is, nobody can fire us,
I called an asshole. No, then I took it back. I said, no, she's not an asshole because even assholes have a purpose. So, Yeah,
we're going to get into that with her. In fact, we may want to start with that. But we have a couple of amazing guests tonight that we're going to cover all the mass appeal. All of these cases going on in Massachusetts. We try and distance ourselves, go to Florida, some other wacky place, and they pull us back in because Massachusetts it's nonstop crazy there. And the 4 cases we think we're getting updates on. Aidan Kearney case, of course, what are they calling it? The mega motion to dismiss that was dropped yesterday, 80 some pages. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about Karen Reed and her phones. We'll talk about Sandra Birchmore. We'll talk about, of course, Kelsey Fitzsimmons, which we've just gotten into recently. We've got a bit of an update on that. So I think to do that, first of all, we have with us Jodene Weber. She is hello, as I like to say, she is a retired, very special agent for the FBI.
Well, thank you.
Not just a special agent, a very special agent. So we appreciate her joining, and we also have Mizzy. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. When you think Sandra Birchmore, you think Mizzy because she brought that case to light and keeps shining a light on it as it slowly moves through the system there in the case against former cop Farwell. So anybody have a preference on where we begin this?
Explain who it is, Mizzy, for those who are just tuning in don't know.
He has two Matthew Farwell in the federal case against him, two court dates, October 6th and October 16th. Basically, the first one is the end of the pretrial, and then they're moving into the next stages of trial. And we hope on the 16th we might get a date. I don't know, because it will be a new judge on the 16th.
And why is that? Do you know why that is?
I think just because the pretrial they just had a different judge, and now this will be the judge for the duration from going forward.
And Mizzy, he's accused. Tell our viewers what he is accused of.
He's accused of murdering a witness against him in federal court.
And that witness would be?
Because the reason why he allegedly murdered her was because it wasn't because of the baby like a lot of people think. It was because, the baby had part of it, but it was because of his secret was getting out that he had abused Sandra from the age of 12 to 23 and then started sexually abusing her at 15.
So since the feds don't have a straight murder statute, if you're dealing with, it's always under terrorism or something like that. He is accused of murdering a witness against him, and that witness would be Sandra Birchmore then.
Yes. Who
happened to be carrying a baby that everyone thought was his, but apparently may not be his. But that's maybe irrelevant to this whole thing. As it turns out.
As far as I know, I've spoken to some people close to the case, and they say it's true that the baby is not his, per the government. But at this point, we don't know who the father is.
Yeah, and it could be that if that wasn't truly the motivator anyway, it's almost irrelevant right?
Yeah.
So, Jodene, let me ask you, as a federal agent, most local or state agencies cover murders, right? And they bring in the FBI maybe to help in that process. But as you look at the Sandra Birchmore case, and now it's a federal case now, right?
Correct.
What's the FBI's role in prepping for and heading toward trial in a case like this?
Well, it depends what their ultimate goal is. Their ultimate goal may not be to go to trial. It may be to try to flip him, to use him in some sort of overall public corruption scheme. That would be something I suspect, that perhaps the government may be trying to elicit information from him as to who else was involved in these grooming activities, what other officers may have abused minor children. Are there other victims? What information can they elicit? Were there investigators with the Massachusetts State Police that cooperated in a cover-up? Was there any pressure with the medical examiner in the state to elicit a suicide determination for cause of death? I think all those things will be things that the FBI and federal prosecutors will try to see. If he's willing to cooperate, could there be some sort of negotiation and perhaps elicit cooperation, and then maybe we won't have a trial. But if they do go to trial, let's assume there is no cooperation and no deal in the works or anything like that, then yes, you need to get your witnesses ready. You need to have all your evidence ready. You need to be ready for suppression hearings, motions in limine, all those sorts of things that lead up to trial, and be prepared to go, because most federal judges, they run very tight ships. It's not like Judge Beverly Kenney and what we saw in Karen Reed. They keep very tight schedules. They keep the pace going. They don't want to waste jurors' time. And I anticipate, if and when we do go to trial, that it will run rather efficiently.
That's for sure. Federal courts don't take the garbage and don't act like Judge Kenney. They are very, very tough. They're very tight, and they do run a tight ship. And in that regard, then, Mizzy, are there other people that are associated with this case of this allegations of wrongdoing? And then this would be the Stoughton Police Department, if I have that correctly.
Yeah, Matthew's twin brother, William, and their mentor, Robert Devine. And the Boston Globe just came out with a bombshell on him this week, saying that he contacted her the day she was murdered. And we didn't know that before.
The boss of them, or the mentor? And if mentor, what way?
They were part of the same program as Sandra was, but like 10 years before. They were in the program in 2002 when Robert Devine took over the program. And they came back as mentors later on when they both became police officers. Yeah. And
this is that the Explorer program, right? Where they bring the kids in at like 12, 13 years old.
Yeah. They were in there about the same age as Sandra was when she joined the program. So, and they basically ran the program with him. He was the only police officer who ran the program, except his wife would come in and mentor sometimes, but she was from a different police station. And they were his deputy chief and his lieutenant. So basically at the age of, 14, they ran the Explorers program with him in 2002.
And doing so, the Globe story had a bombshell because this was allegedly testimony that came out. Could you tell us where it came out, in what format, and was it secreted?
Yeah, it was in the Post Commission. Right now, he went through the Post Commission to see if his license would be taken away.
Explain to people what that is when you say.
Yeah, the Post Commission is they are the ones who give licenses to police officers in the state of Massachusetts. There are Post Commissions throughout the country. And if you have to go before the Post Commission, that means you have some wrongdoing that has been alleged, and you have to go before the board to basically kind of a mini trial. And for some reason, this judge decided to have it a closed door hearing, because most post commissions you can actually go from being part of the public to go watch. And the judge decided to close that hearing. So we are only finding out now, this happened in June, that he had spoken to Sandra or made contact with Sandra the day she was murdered.
Do you think that had something to do with why these prior hearings against the one defendant at this point were pushed? Remember, they kept pushing those hearings. We thought maybe there's some deal in the works. Maybe it was this investigative material that they were getting.
Maybe part of that, but also I know the last hearing was bumped because the government hasn't been getting any discovery from his defense, and they're looking to get that discovery from them. When they first arrested him, they turned over a big packet, and then they've been giving them, as they continue to investigate the case, because they are continuing to investigate the case. I've spoken to a few people who have spoken to them, and they, were turning over their discovery as they got it, but the defense hasn't turned over any discovery. And I know there was another date that was postponed because he had hired a death penalty attorney to come in to be part of his defense. So she had to get up to speed on the case too. So that was why the last two hearings have been bumped.
Okay, so the new hearing we have now, that leads us into the status. I know that you have, and you've been helping and participated in a Dateline show that is going to run Friday night at what time nationally?
It's 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock, I think like in the Midwest, on NBC. And we're excited that the, Dateline decided to cover Sandra's story. This is going to be a 1 hour episode. And then as the trial gets closer, they'll expand it into a 2 hour episode to basically basically rehash it and do the update of her what's going on with the trial.
Which leads Michael Bryant to his 88-page motion that he read, that there's footnotes in that motion.
Yeah, and I have to tell you, I don't have it here to put up because it was a lot, but I thought we would talk about some of the key points. I watched a chunk of Aidan's show last night. It was on in the background while I was doing some legal stuff, and it reinforced what we already knew was going on, which was one of the most outrageous parts of this whole enterprise against Aidan Kearney. That has to do with the grand jury looking at some of his prior episodes and learning not that long ago that the titles had been changed to something far more incendiary than what was original. And even Aidan has said that, I never looked at that. I never looked at, they had that information, but he never looked at what the grand jury was reading in terms of the titles. He knew they had certain episodes. And so what was interesting in the motion was that not only was Tully involved in that whole misdirection, but he apparently takes credit for it. I tend to believe that Kate Peter was more involved in that. Remember, she's the one that has been all along kind of watching what Aidan Kearney is doing, the Turtle Boy shows, right? Anything she can find that she thinks is useful against him, she's getting it to the prosecution. Well, that isn't what Tully is saying in the papers that are addressed in this motion. He's saying it was him, that he was the guy that created and presented those titles, which is better for the motion. Again, it's a motion to dismiss. Very difficult to win. This is their second one. They lost, I think 5 counts were dropped as a result of the first motion to dismiss. So there's still 11 or so left. Obviously, they're attacking the entirety of the case. This is one of the most pivotal issues, and that is, did the prosecution, through Tully, through Kate Peter, change the nature of those episodes to make it look like there was intent to intimidate? Because that's all the charges primarily are: witness intimidation or some offshoot of that. So if you don't have that intent, if you can't display that intent, if you can't prove, at least beyond the grand jury level, which admittedly a very low threshold, but if that's the core of the reason you decide to charge, then the whole thing's a farce. So that was my focus on the 88 pages. It's well laid out. The timetable it's a great Linda, primer for anything you don't know about this case, because it just lays it out so well. And it's a pretty good read. It's 300 and some paragraphs, as I recall, in the 88 pages, but a lot of footnotes and a lot of reference to material that has been out there, but not really put together in the way that this has been put together. I see that Jodene has popped on and off. Let me see if I can bring her back on. She's there. Up. There you are. You're back.
Oh yeah,
You're back. We were just talking about you.
So I had to come back on.
Okay. Well, thank you for the effort. We appreciate that. So that's my take on, it's kind of a capsulized version of what I think is critical, because it's full of soup to nuts. It's in there. But to me, if you're going to focus on anything, it's the evidence that further supports the apparent tactic that the prosecution, through Tully, Peter, both, manipulated the videos presented to the grand jury to make it look like intimidation. That's the case to me.
That's what it sounds like. And so how does the Sandra Birchmore footnotes fit into that, Missy?
Well, they're trying to show that there's a pattern, with this DA's office, that, that they don't do their job properly, that they're punishing people. They're, like in Sandra's case, they punished a victim. So they want to show that this isn't just, Karen Reed. It's not just Aidan. It's Sandra, and it's other cases. I mean, like, even you loop into loop in what was going on with the phones and with Brian Walsh and the Miles King case. It's like what this DA's office does. They don't do their job properly. They are not in search of justice. They are in search of winning at all cost. And they will do anything to cover up or, like I said, Sandra was blamed for her own death. They accused her of unaliving, or in a sense, murdering herself. I mean, let's be frank. And they keep doing these things, and it has to end. And I'm glad that Betterow put Sandra in there for those reasons. It shows that this DA's office just has this pattern that they keep doing over and over again.
Linda, what do you think about that in terms of the impact on the judge? This is, Judge Doolin is going to be hearing this. I can't believe any of this, if he lives in that area, is a surprise to him. Right. He's been taking all of this in, either in cases that are in front of him or those that he's read about or colleagues have talked about. If he's not part of the solution, here's a cliche, he's part of the problem. So is he just going to turn his head and just ignore what everybody else sees? Is this going to be a real test for him?
Yeah, it could be a real test. Because quite frankly, I thought this case should have been dismissed for a long time ago, because remember the motion, and you saw it, there's redactions everywhere, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and redactions are for people that you can't see. We're not allowed to see because Aidan, through the judge, has not been allowed to show some of the documents. And if the judge didn't allow those documents to be shown, then to me, he's not taking it that seriously. While I like him a lot, I'm not sure that I would want a trial by him.
And the funny thing is, we don't know because they're redactions, but most of that redacted material, we believe, is contained in some of the documents that are now in the public sphere, but are still impounded in the context of the litigation. So you and I might be able to look at them and go, but they can't talk about them. The defense can't talk about them, and it's being redacted. We don't know where they sync up in these motion papers, because it'd be like doing some sort of a hyper crossword puzzle. You'd have to try and figure out what would fit in that space there that comes from this text or from this email. But those documents are all out there in the public domain now because they've been released, but not unimpounded. It's the most bizarre scenario I've ever seen.
Yeah, I don't get it now. I know Aidan's has a hearing on Monday, right?
I think I better check my schedule. I think it's on Thursday.
Thursday, I believe.
Yeah, Thursday. So I'll be up there Thursday, and
I
I
know
have
what's happening next week.
I have a feeling my conversation with Mr. Bradle on the courthouse steps may blend into Kelsey Fitzsimmons. You know, he's that is, as frustrating and crazy as the Aidan Kearney case is. This Kelsey Fitzsimmons case, you know, she's in jail and she's got health issues, and it just seems like the powers that be there have compounded their problems by, and maybe it's just the judge. I don't know. Maybe it's the DA. Maybe, I don't know what.
Suggested in our chat last night, Michael, that it's because of who he represents. And I went off. And I was like, no one should be, dealing with anyone. No one should be attacking anyone by who they represent. What if I wanted from her? I represented all these people, including somebody that was not guilty in the Suffolk County courts, right? And all who had been adjudicated guilty of murder in a different courtroom. No one should do that. But you know what? Maybe the judge in the Kelsey Fitzsimmons case doesn't like Bradle because of that. And we're looking at it, Missy, you and I, like, hey, wait a second, look at all these cases. Look at all these cases. This is a pattern and practice. This is something that's really bad up there with, there's something going on. Maybe the water, is bad. I don't know, but there's something going on.
Yeah. Let me ask you that, Mizzy. I mean, because we're talking about North Andover, which is not Dedham. It's about 30 some miles north of Boston, now not south of Boston. So you don't have the Michael Morrissey factor. Do you know anything about the DA up there, or who's pulling the strings? Is this judge, kind of a loose cannon, or what do you think?
I'm not sure, but I do want to say something about the medical portion of it. I'm a severe asthmatic. I have a frozen diaphragm on my right side, which causes me to have a partially collapsed lung all the time. It's not like an injury lung. When somebody gets an injury and they have like Kelsey's, it's not that type of collapsed lung. I would not be able to take that test because of my physical disabilities. And for this judge to not allow her to do it in a different way, because it's basically a torture device for her, is utterly ridiculous. And I think that, some ADA lawyers should start speaking out in the state of Massachusetts. Because
Jodene, you want to talk about this too, because you've had the health issues with the breathing too, right?
Yes, and I've had major surgeries, and you have to blow in a similar type of respiratory device after major surgeries. And I had extensive surgery on my back, and I couldn't do it for days on end. And to your point, I would agree. If this causes her, from what I read in the paperwork, this is causing her ribs not to be able to heal. This is causing extensive additional damage potentially to her. They've asked for an accommodation. I think
that's a great point. We lost Jodene again. She's having.
I keep coming in and out. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Can't see you.
Hear you.
Oh boy, I don't know what's going on.
No, but we can hear you.
All right. Well, I'll keep working on it.
Mizzy and Jodene, your viewpoint about this really becomes an ADA violation. In terms of this is something that should be looked at, and there needs to be an ADA lawyer. You're right. We would do that here in I'd say New Jersey, where we have a very strong, not just ADA, but a very strong state statute about accommodation. So you're right, Michael. That's a great point. If she's not able to do it, there has to be an accommodation. This has to. So maybe the way in is a federal case, to bring a federal court case right now on the issue of failure to accommodate.
Yeah. And I think to help kind of understand, we're talking kind of loosely about the injury. She was shot and there's actually still bullet fragments in her back. But I have a couple of things here that will help us kind of understand what she's really suffering. And this is basically a doctor's note that was being directed to the court to help the court understand. And that, of course, is Judge Kathleen McCarthy, that this Scram makes it difficult for her to heal and is painful when it's being used. So this is the doctor's description of what happened. He was the trauma surgeon. You've got number 1, gunshot wound to the right hemothorax with retained bullet fragments in the right upper back. Moderate right pneumothorax requiring chest tube placement, right middle and lower lobe, that's of the lung, pulmonary contusions with active bleeding, grade 4 hepatic trauma with active bleeding from the right hepatic lobe, comminuted right posterior 12th rib fracture, right anterior 11th rib fracture of the costochondral junction. And that hurts just to say. So this is, these are some serious injuries that she is recovering from. I think it's been 7 months now. That's my rough calculation. So in his medical opinion, the fracture of the 12th rib can cause pain that may persist for several months after the injury. The severity and duration of the pain following such a fracture varies and is difficult to predict how long symptoms will continue in any given patient. Additionally, retained bullet fragments can cause chronic pain that can be exacerbated by movement such as deep breathing. And what did the good judge say about this very important document?
You're using the word good loosely, aren't you?
Well, it is in quotes. So, yeah. What? Any guesses? Anyone? She said, "Too bad. That's a hearsay document." And there was another person there, Mr. January, who did testify, but she basically said, "You could have had him or somebody else testify about this. This is the hearsay document." She's totally blowing off. And if we look at her denial of the motion for reconsideration, she acknowledges that in that hearing, you don't necessarily have the strict evidentiary rules that you might in some other matter. However, she felt on balance that you still could not look at documents like this doctor's note because it is hearsay.
When I looked at that, by the way, and I think it's only been about close to 4 months that she's been shot, Michael. I think you're talking about the baby. I mean,
yeah, I was putting it total. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, you put the total in just so everyone understands. When I looked at that, when you put that first up, I thought I was looking at like an autopsy report, because if you see the Massachusetts autopsy reports, that's like the typeface they use and all. And that's the first thing I looked at. And certainly that judge would have taken that if this were a case involving a death. She'd allow that in, as a.
Well, you would hope. Yeah, you would hope.
But this is ridiculous. She asked for more information. Let's tell everybody how this came about. She initially, it was Kelsey who went into court to try to get the terms right, to ask the terms be modified because she felt she couldn't breathe into it. She hadn't been violated. No one violated her on her being out. No one.
Which is normal. That would be, you just do your thing until somebody complains about it. But they were being proactive. And let's look at this now, because it's as good a time as any. This is the decision in their motion to reconsider. You'll see how the judge used that against her by saying, you've been here 2-3 times already, never mentioning that it wasn't as a result of violations, but you've been here 2-3 times trying to get modifications. She's holding it against her. So let's take a look here. Hold on, let me get this page out of the way. Stand by.
Yeah, Michael was talking about the baby being 7 months. We're talking about this whole thing happened.
Yes.
And all.
Okay, so
he was 5 months taken away, right?
Yes. This is the kind of the summary of the decision, and then we'll go into some of her foundational reasoning. As there's nothing in the motion that was not known to Fitzsimmons and her counsel when this matter was last before the court on September 11, that was the day that first went in, there's been no change in circumstances or newly discovered information that would warrant revisiting the court's decision. Fitzsimmons' failure to transparently provide information related to her ability and willingness to abide by the conditions imposed. Was she not at the hearing? Despite 3 lengthy hearings, is a manipulation of this court's efforts to fashion the least restrictive conditions of release that would both allow her to avoid incarceration and reasonably assure the safety of all persons in the community. Yeah, because she's a threat to everybody in the community. Thus, the motion is denied. So she's using all of this against her and ignoring the arguments that were made at the hearing. We heard a chunk of that audio.
I don't know what to say. I'm just thinking 2.5, 3 months for the surgery. And Missy, you can chime in on this. When you have a serious medical problem, when I had both my hips replaced, I was still miserable. Yeah, I looked like I was great in 3 months, but I was not. I was miserable. I couldn't be running up and down stairways because my hips were just replaced, even though I was walking and going out and all. But there's certain things that are terrible when you have a condition which then becomes chronic. Mizzy, I mean, just talk to us here.
Yeah, the manipulation part really got me angry. You know, being able to breathe deep when you have an injury, or like I said, with mine, it's the frozen diaphragm. It's hard and it hurts. And I've had to take, not obviously I've never used the Scram, but I've had to take the breathing test where you have to breathe into this machine. And when you can't breathe, it's really, really hard to do and it hurts. And I just can't imagine broken ribs hurt and they take forever to heal. And for this judge to say it's a manipulation, she doesn't have the information, but she had the parole officer testify. She doesn't have the information, but she got a doctor's note. What is this judge talking about?
It's just like she's actively ignoring whatever she feels she needs to get to the decision she wants. So let's look at some of the language in her discussion. The only thing I'll give her credit for is on this motion for reconsideration, she did 7 pages. Now, if we looked at our friend, Judge Beverly Kenney, she would have written in handwriting underneath the moving papers, denied, and that would have been her argument. So I believe, though, that these 7 pages are done primarily to cover her ass. That's why I think she went to the great extent that she did. So as she begins her discussion, based on the serious nature of the allegations against her, as well as evidence presented by the Commonwealth about Fitzsimmons' history of aggressive behavior while intoxicated, not the night of the incident, having nothing to do with the night of the incident, the court concluded that the condition of remaining alcohol-free and submitting to Scram monitoring was necessary to ensure the safety of the community and imposed as a condition of release. So, and we've looked at, if we get a chance, maybe we'll look at some of it. When I see something that I'm unfamiliar with, like Scram, I don't even know what it's an acronym for. Alcohol monitoring, I'm guessing, is the last 2 letters. But I want to see what's it look like. Everybody's seen the thing you blow into to either activate a car if you're on that kind of monitoring where you can't drive. It's similar. It's similar to that. And it requires that long, sustained breath. And then if that reports you at 0.00 blood alcohol, so you can comply with the release agreement. And then, remember this, Mizzy, did you see the end of the hearing? Jodene, are you back?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can see and hear you.
We're having a lot of glitches with the stream, but I can hear this. And, I'm thinking, to me, it sounds like she's being almost deliberately punitive. Like she was insulted that they would raise this cruel and unusual punishment.
Yep.
And this is a waste of her time. And clearly, this young lady was shot. That's not in debate, that she has these substantial injuries. They've suggested an alternative that's reasonable. I think this is really egregious. And then to throw her in jail when she's a law enforcement officer and a former corrections officer, that further puts her at risk. I think this is really dangerous all the way around.
Yeah, it's funny how you mentioned the cruel and unusual punishment reference, which she puts in quotes, the torture she puts in quotes. Twice at the end of that hearing, she had Bradel repeat it, in essence, so she could then throw it back in his face, basically saying, that's ridiculous. And so she takes those 2 elements, cruel and unusual punishment and torture, to continue to require Fitzsimmons to comply with the condition of being monitored by Scram, but presented no alternative testing options to ensure Fitzsimmons remained alcohol-free. All they didn't do was provide the method that it would need to be done. But they talked about urine testing. After the fact, we learned there's this company. I think it's talked about here in the decision. It was certainly talked about in the moving papers, where she'd have to drive like 10 minutes or something to do that. What does the court say about that? Let me see if it's the exact part I've highlighted here. Oh yeah, here we go. So, and there was that weird recess. Mizzy, did you see that? And how she basically asked Bradel to repeat the cruel and unusual punishment, the 8th Amendment argument. Then she said, okay, anything else, counsel? Okay, I'm taking a quick break. Well, what the hell are you taking a quick break for? You have to talk to somebody. Why are you taking a break? Did that seem odd to you?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of harkens back to one of the times that Bev kind of did that in one of her hearings too. She said she had to take a break and came back and made her decision. So
everybody thought she was having a White Claw, though. So I don't know. I don't know anything about that. Okay, so here, this footnote is key. Before taking the recess to reach a decision, the court once again asked defense counsel if he had anything else to submit. He responded in the negative, even citing to the court record as to when that happened. Shortly thereafter, defense counsel vaguely suggested that there might be other alternatives that might involve Fitzsimmons leaving the house for urine testing, but never provided the court with the information contained in Mr. January's, that's the probation guy, right? September 10 email, or any other specific information regarding an alternative testing option that would allow the court to assess whether such an alternative option was appropriate in her case. There's another reference. Let me see if it's in this footnote or not. It's another reference where she basically says, even if you could leave the house for that urine testing, that increases the number of times that she's outside the home, which therefore makes it less likely that she will not have some impact on the community. So it's like a fallback argument that says, even if you told me enough that I could have allowed alternative testing, one of the goals of this release agreement is to keep her in her house. So,
because she's a danger to the community, says the judge. She was shot by the police officers. I don't get it. I don't, because why? Is it danger community? Because allegedly her boyfriend, soon to then have been husband, father of the child, said that she drank too much. Quote, looked at her bachelorette party and all, as if men don't drink at their bachelor parties anytime, and threw it back in her face that she's had incidents with regard to alcohol. So therefore, she's a danger to the community. She won't have a gun. She doesn't have a baby. She has to live with her family, and yet she's a danger. I don't get it. Jodene, you're back.
Well, I think couldn't her probation officer get samples from her, or couldn't there be like a medical nurse that they could arrange to randomly come and collect a urine sample in a sterile cup, and then that could be tested? I mean, I think there's workarounds here.
Yeah, I think that Bradel, when they offered up the option they did for a lab, it was more accredited and therefore might be more acceptable to the court. I could see them having some issues if they don't have some chain of custody issues and some way for the court to be comfortable that it was in fact her urine sample. But to suggest that, well, that's bad because now you're going to leave the house, and we don't want you leaving the house. I've never seen anything like it. It just seems, and I think you mentioned this, Jodene, she goes out of her way to be the opposite of empathetic and helpful. She's going out of her way. She's already a judge, this woman, it sounds like, and she's punishing her before the fact.
And I wonder, does it have anything to do with the Lindsay Clancy case, which is also simultaneously going on in Massachusetts? And does she have a negative connotation because that case involves postpartum depression and is so extreme? Does she favor the police and therefore she's got some sort of prejudice against this defendant? Does she have history with Tim Bradel? I mean, there just appears to be something else going on here that's influencing her, where she's just going to such an extreme to be almost retaliatory.
Yeah. And here's that. I know I saw this somewhere. The court specifically noted, in the context of considering whether it was necessary to require random drug testing, the importance of minimizing the number of times Fitzsimmons was allowed to leave the residence. So you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And the Scram testing she references, she's basically saying in the September 8th hearing, which was not the one which asked for modification on Scram, it was the prior hearing. But in the one on the 8th, she said she didn't say anything about her inability to comply with Scram testing during that one. They did 3 days later. Let's see what else we have.
Wasn't it the case that she hadn't started the Scram testing yet? So how could she know that she was going to?
That was, because it had been ordered, right? But I personally, that's why I did the research. I don't know what a Scram test would look, feel, sound like, right? And I now know, after my research, that they have ankle monitor versions now. But hers was obviously the breathalyzer version. But unless you've done that research, how do you know? How do you know to raise your hand and say, Judge, I think this might be a problem?
Right. And
Well,
the
and
judge,
that's the thing. She was proactive. She recognized. Oh, I'm sorry. Once she recognized she was having difficulty, they did the proactive thing and came forward.
Yeah, and that's what's ironic is that they did this on their own, thinking they could, offer an alternative to the restrictive conditions, and they're penalized for it. I mean, I don't think she had a clue that day she was going into jail.
I don't either.
No, not the way she cried. Mm-mm.
So
I mean, the probation officer testified for her in her defense. He was defending her, saying she's not trying to bypass it. She's trying her best to do it. She's logging it at the time she's supposed to. It's just she cannot physically do it. I mean, he's telling this judge. I mean, the judge should at least listen to him. And I found it odd that she was like, "Oh, the email that he sent is hearsay," and then she found out he was in the court.
And then it was almost like, well, they should have had him testify again. That's what she made it sound like. First of all, that's so ridiculous. I can't believe she has a law license. Especially in the rules of evidence that apply in this kind of hearing. You've just had this guy testify. Yeah, the email that he wrote was not part of that testimony, but you can't take judicial notice of. She could have done so many things to make this right.
Judges do all sorts of things on the bench. They say the jury's not here, and I'm seeing it, and I know it, and all. And if there's a problem, they pick up the phone. I mean, if you're ever in federal court, Jodene, you know this. A judge has a phone on the bed. They'll pick up the phone. They'll actually pick up the phone. It'll go on the record, and they'll call somebody right there. I mean,
yes, they will. Yes, they will. Or they'll pick up the phone and say, "Get here. You've got 15 minutes."
Right. Yes. Exactly. Yeah. This is so the baby is like 7.5 months old. The baby, I think, was 5 months old when she was shot.
Yeah.
So it's been like under 3 months since she's shot, undergoing these surgeries, and then she gets thrown in jail. On the word she didn't even know was coming of her boyfriend, who she had been living with until just before this incident happened. He then goes and gets both the restraining, I guess it's 2 orders, but a restraining order. I'll just say one because it's just easier to talk about, to take the baby away from her based on the fact that she could be a danger to herself and the baby, and then gets this, the non-contact order, and then files to get for child support, basically, by saying, I want to attach the proceeds because she has to sell the house now to get the money out of it. And one wonders, how she ever got hooked up with him. He's a fireman and I guess he loved being a star because he was in some magazine about being a father with all the other firemen at the time.
Oh, that's right. They had like 9 babies over 9 months or something that right. The community there was having all kinds of babies. So this obviously is Kelsey Fitzsimmons. Yesterday we had some of the Bradel press conference after one of their first hearings. Courtney, his paralegal, was next to him, and we didn't make a clear distinction that was not Kelsey Fitzsimmons. They have not a dissimilar kind of look, and her hair was the same way on that particular day. Speaking of different looks, remember yesterday I was scrambling for and looking for and found an actual picture of the judge. She's kind of camera shy these days. There was no camera that day, right, Mizzy? It was just audio that day?
I believe it was just audio.
Yeah, I think that's kind of her favorite. So I'm looking for, and I find a picture, and I put the picture up, and people were going, "That is not her. That is definitely not her." And I said, well, everything I've got tells me it is. I don't have a date on it, though, right? So, and I don't think I can add 2 pictures. Can I? Anybody tell me that? Can I add 2 pictures? Let's find out, because maybe it'd be nice to see these side by side. I'm just not sure I can actually add a second picture. Yeah, I can't. So keep that picture in mind, because the one I'm going to put up now is, I will just say it's slightly different, and this is a modern present day picture of the judge. There you go. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, it's been a hard time on the bench. I don't know the date difference, but clearly it's been hard on the judge, and maybe that's why she doesn't want cameras in the courtroom. Who knows? Don't know. But that's her, Kathleen McCarthy, and I guess she doesn't use her hyphen anymore. I guess that disappeared. It was Naaman, I think. Now it's just Kathleen McCarthy. All right. So what's coming up next on this case?
Now Wahlberg is gifted a Justice Serve TV membership, and
thank you, Donnie.
You should be subscribing because somebody's probably already gotten that message.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because I have not. It's on my list, Donnie. I think you sent her the address because she won our "Where in the World Is Justice" mug from my last road trip a couple of days ago. And I got to get that in the mail. So I'm sure I got it. I'm sure I did. Missy will remind me if I've misplaced it, but we'll get that out there to you. So, and now since the motion of reconsideration has been denied, what's next? What's going to happen in this, Missy?
I believe she has a hearing next week, Tuesday or something like that, for the family court, I believe. I think. I know she has a hearing coming up next week. I'm just not 100%. I think it's family court with the boyfriend.
Oh boy, they're going to bring her in shackles.
And this is going to be related, I'm guessing, to his attempt to get the proceeds of the home sale. Yeah, he comes off. Maybe he and the judge will be like-minded because he comes off as a real jerk.
He really does. He really does. And I have a lot of problems with that shooting too. A lot of problems with that.
Tell us about that. Let's
talk about that. We kind of jumped over that because we were waiting for you to reconvene. So set it up for us and how it all happened.
So my understanding is the 3 officers went to her home to serve her with this protection from abuse that the fiance had filed. And at some point, she went upstairs allegedly to retrieve items for the baby because they were taking the baby. And the one officer, Officer Noonan, went with her. Now, there's all sorts of problems right there to begin with. Number one, they should have had a plan before even arriving at the home, knowing that she had gotten her service weapon back, that when they were going to present this paperwork to her, they should have put her at a kitchen table, seated where they could kind of surround her, make sure she couldn't reach for anything to harm herself with, and then say, all right, we got to talk to you. We've got some paperwork here. For your safety and ours, we're going to need to secure your weapon. Where is it? Can we locate it? Do you have any other weapons in the home, etc.? That's what they should have done and been prepared to do it before even entering her residence. But then they should.
We're losing Jodene. We lost Jodene.
No.
Oh no!
A cliffhanger.
Am I back?
The audio is there.
Can hear you.
All right, I'll keep talking because I think it's just a bad link tonight. But once they were there and once she started packing up the things for the infant child, instead of allowing her to even go upstairs, having not secured her firearm, they never should have allowed her to go upstairs. They should have gone up and retrieved the items. But then once up there, she was alone with one officer. And then at that point, he claims she grabbed her weapon, pointed it, and he claims he thought she was going to shoot at him. She claims she pointed the weapon at her temple, fired, but the gun did not discharge. And then he claims she attempted to then reload. However, if all that occurred like that, I have a hard time believing he didn't unload more ammunition and more rounds and shoot her multiple times. I find that all very, very odd. Additionally, the 2 other officers are downstairs. You would have thought they would have run his back up and possibly fired additionally. So I have a lot of problems with all this shooting.
Yeah.
How about the point is she gets shot once in the chest. It was does that indicate to you that was a shot to kill? Because usually, like we've had cases in New York where when the police start shooting, they just empty their weapon. What's the protocol on that?
So if there should have been oral commands, number one, it's like drop the weapon. And if she does not comply with dropping the weapon, then he would be authorized to shoot, because it only takes less than a second to turn the gun from a self-inflicted wound to herself to pointing it at him, and then she is in imminent danger. So if he did give oral commands and she did not obey those commands, then he would be justified in shooting her. Now, typically, though, what it sounds like is when the weapon didn't fire and then she attempts to reload, did he have any other non-lethal means or less lethal, potential lethal means, such as a taser? Did he have an asp? Would he have been able to overpower her and obtain the weapon, use defensive tactics? I find all of this very odd, the fact that he claims she attempted to reload and not clear the weapon. Because when a weapon doesn't fire, typically that's because a bullet has become jammed in the chamber. So you want to clear and rack the slide to expel that jammed round and then recycle a new round into the chamber. But he said reload, which to me indicates inserting a new magazine into the weapon.
Oh, interesting. And for those that don't know anything about guns, a magazine is with an automatic weapon, right?
Correct.
Yes.
This all sounds like it would take a long time. I mean,
yes,
relatively.
it's not just instantaneous. So to me, if you're dropping a magazine, you got to drop the magazine, then you got to reach for a new one and insert a new magazine. That to me does take time. And so I find this rather odd. To me, what I suspect is she grabbed for the weapon intending to commit self-harm, and he panicked and shot her. That's what I think.
And apparently they're great friends. They had a shared experience as they were both
very devastating.
She was a rookie. There was a murder-suicide with a mother and child, and they kind of bonded over this horrific crime. And so it just leads you to wonder what was actually happening. This happened in the bedroom upstairs. Is that right?
That's my understanding. And the two other officers were downstairs, which again, I don't think that was right protocol. I would have stayed with her, keep her seated at a kitchen table, send the other officers up to retrieve what other items they need for the baby. Because even if there hadn't been a firearm, there could have been other weapons up there. There could have been a scissors. You have, a lot of times when you have a newborn baby or an infant, you get boxes of diapers, supplies sent. You've got all those stacked up in a nursery. She could have had a box cutter up there, anything like that. Anything else could have been a weapon. And when you have a subject moving around a residence that you're not familiar with, that increases danger to law enforcement.
Yeah. I mean, just imagine how this mother is feeling. Here, prep for us to take your child away. All kinds of thoughts might have been going through her head that could have put herself, the child, or the other officers in danger. It just doesn't sound like they'd handled it very well.
Absolutely.
Before we go, Jodene, and I know you have the book. You can't show it. Michael and I will be releasing this weekend a short on postpartum depression, because I kind of went off. She had just come off it. It was transitory. She was cleared to go back at a certain point, but she had postpartum depression, which we talked about. And I know you want to go there because you have Brooke Shields' book, and that's exactly who brought this whole business to light, that this is something women should talk about, that people should know about, that it's not taboo, and it's treatable as a definite medical psychiatric condition. So,
absolutely. I do have the book. It's called Down Came the Rain, My Journey Through Postpartum Depression by Brooke Shields. It came out in 2005, and it's only roughly 225 pages, but at the end of the book, there are some great resources in the afterword as far as books and websites. If you need help, there's hotline numbers, and it really details what her experience was. And it did get very extreme for her. I read this 20 years ago, and I remember one scene where she considered jumping out of a window. She was going through so much psychosis.
Yeah. Powerful.
Yeah. And this is what he put in his papers. The father, boyfriend, soon to have been husband at that point in October, that she said she was going to, and I forget the exact words we used last night, but that she was going to go to a faraway place, which is words he construed to mean that she was going to kill herself and the baby, because she was going to take the baby to a faraway place or something like that. Those were the words. That wasn't the exact words. I read them last night, but those were the kind of words.
Well, and he just seems very odd, because here she had been able to be treated successfully, that she was able to get her service weapon back, that things were kind of coming together. Wouldn't you, as the mother of your child is getting better, wouldn't you be celebrating that? Why would you become so vindictive this way, and really almost like he's holding her past and weaponizing it against her while she was suffering from postpartum depression? It's like he's weaponizing that, running to the court, getting a filing. She has no opportunity to present evidence or defend herself, and she suffers all these repercussions. And now he's doing it again with this lien against her house.
Yeah. And, that's what concerns me, is you get him together with the judge that also seems to have an agenda. And it could not be a worse setup for how she rules. Who knows? I mean, she's not going to rule on that process, I understand, but she's obviously connected to the entire case. And these judges talk. It's not a massive county there. So that's coming. You think that's on Tuesday, you said, Missy? Or Monday?
Yeah, I think it might be Tuesday, the 23rd or the 22nd. I can't remember which date it is.
Yeah, but there's so much going on next week in Massachusetts. We have Karen Reed. Well, first of all, we know tomorrow night we have the Dateline special on Sandra Birchmore, but we have Fitzsimmons. We have is in jail. We have Karen Reed. Who's got another hearing next week.
For the civil case, yeah.
In the civil case, but this is the civil case hearing was in light of what's going on in Massachusetts, in light of the fact that the prosecutor who won't declare Sandra Birchmore's death a homicide for the second time, is going after Karen Reed again by trying to keep her phones to, I should say the prosecutor, it's actually Cosgrove, the special prosecutor who's in Aidan Kearney's case, but we kind of all believe we know who's the puppet master and who's
in Norfolk County.
Yeah, Norfolk County would be followed, and to keep her phones for another look-see with Aidan Kearney to try to see if they were intimidating witnesses together. And yet, Mizzy, they will not call in that county Sandra Birchmore, despite the fact there's a federal indictment, death a homicide.
Yeah, and it also goes along with it. What about the other? I mean, they haven't even done the larceny charges. That's easy paperwork. It's all paperwork. The abuse, the grooming, and then the murder. Like they want nothing to do with it. And one of the things that a lot of people say, well, the FBI found all those text messages. No.
They
no.
But he's also
no. That's exactly how she said it. I say that to my phone every day. No. No. They had all those text messages. Fanning even filed a report that said he reviewed all the text messages. And when I spoke to him, he said he went through the text messages. So they were there. They had this information, and Morrissey just does not want to file charges.
Yeah, they absolutely had them. They were in the internal affairs investigation report.
Exactly.
They had them. And that some of those exact quotes that show the premeditation and the way he was scoping around her apartment, looking at the bathroom and the closet door, and that the conversations about, well, I'll tell what you did to me when I was younger, all those things, they had it. They had it all along. And that made me mad when Hank Brennan, not to sidetrack here, but when Hank Brennan.
Not sidetrack, because we're talking about all the cases in Massachusetts, and they all seem to go together. So go ahead.
Yeah. So Hank Brennan, in that pretrial hearing, when he said, well, how dare they say this about John Fanning? He's one of the most decorated and respectable law enforcement agents in the state, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, he's not. Didn't you see what happened in Sandra Birchmore? It was a disaster.
That was right. That was Brennan going through. By the way, comment on this. Scott McGinnis, our Scott McGinnis. Thank you, Scott, for joining us. All police officers are trained to double tap rounds into center mass to a deadly threat. If she was double tapped, well, it only makes sense if she pointed her weapon at responding officers. Jodene, you want to weigh in on this?
So all police are trained to double tap rounds into center mass. That's my point. I don't understand why there was only one round. I really don't. You want to, until the threat is eliminated, you want to keep shooting. So I don't understand. I honestly think it was more of a panic situation.
Yeah. And remember, this is a dear friend. So maybe, that changed how he would normally approach, a threat. I don't know.
This is, we have Karen Reed, we have Aidan Kearney, we have Kelsey Fitzsimmons, and we have Sandra Birchmore.
Brian Walsh.
Oh,
we didn't even touch on Brian Walsh.
Who got stabbed last week.
Yep. He was shivved. And he didn't appear at the hearing earlier this week. He didn't appear, and I wish I hadn't. I wasn't there, but I was watching. It was just total waste of time as they continue to jerk around on these, whether the federal documents used in the Karen Reed case, which could be helpful to many defendants in other cases, are ever going to be turned over to the defense. That is still up in the air, even though Walsh's trial is set, I believe, for October 20th. If that doesn't lead to some sort of continuance because they don't get this material, I'll be shocked.
Scott, I believe there was only one firing, and she was hit once by one bullet. Was it, Michael?
Yeah, and that's the one that some of the fragments are lodged in her upper back.
Was it hollow point also the ammunition? Because typically, if that's typically what law enforcement carries, and that type of bullet, it will enter and then it almost mushrooms out and it causes more damage that way. So even one bullet could cause all this extensive damage that she sustained. I mean, frankly, it's almost, she's lucky to be alive.
I think there's no doubt. Yeah, I think there's no doubt. And I don't know if you were on or off when we went through the doctor's report, but he lists a number of different injuries that clearly suggest the bullet was, spreading out and ticking different lobes of her lungs, ending up in the higher part of her back. I mean, I haven't seen any ballistics reports that suggest it was or wasn't a typical service revolver loaded weapon.
Right, and our people in our chat are saying that the boyfriend, father of the child, said he heard shots with the emphasis on the S, but we haven't seen I just haven't seen it, but I assume they're hollow point. I would think they would have to be hollow points.
Well, and typically every time you have an officer involved shooting, he should be under an internal affairs investigation right now to see if it was a justified shot. That should be going on as well right now. He should almost be on desk duty while that's going on.
Yeah, it's
it could be. I don't have any info on that. That could be happening. I do not know. That's Noonan. Noonan is the officer, her friend.
In any event, whatever this is, you would think that some of the friends would be coming to her, would just be coming to support her. And instead, I just see the pile-on of her, the pile-on of Karen Reed. This is just the pile-on on, as Mizzy points out, blaming Sandra Birchmore for her own unaliving, right? The pile-on and is against these women, all right? Oh my goodness gracious! I mean, that's what we got going here, in my opinion.
And don't forget Aidan Kearney; they're piling on him too.
Putting Aidan Kearney on in a separate way because he brought this to light. He brought the Karen Reed to light, which then shined the light on the Sandra Birchmore, right? So to speak, especially once my husband's report got out, and now we have this, and I think. Aidan also has been really helpful in a lot of things. He brought to light the case we covered this week with a pool camera on the Long Island auto case. That's
right. Him. Yeah, Jean Paul Reyes. Another crazy situation where law enforcement has gone crazy and is being protected. by higher ups. It's an epidemic, I think.
Whether she was shot once or twice, whatever that is, it almost doesn't matter at this point because she is injured badly.
Well, you guys,
should we talk about a happy? Let everyone look at our Oasis cat.
Oh, should we do that? Should we do that?
On the way out. This is, as we all know, we celebrated 1 year this past week of being on the air. It would start as we were going to be 7 minutes a week. It just kind of morphed into a second day job or second night.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So Missy, I see it there, and you can fire that off if you'd like.
We have a Missy and a Mizzy.
12 months of truth in the spotlight, bright. Linda and Michael, they get it right. From the courtroom halls to the breaking news, Justice Served TV, we're here with you. Mascots to be and domino to every case, every clue. To be boxed, he's camera shy. Domino loves to come say hi. 1 year strong, we're a family now. True crime answers, we show you how. Justice Served TV, where justice thrives. 1 year in, and it's changing lives. Journalistic minds with stories to share. Interviews, guests, the truth laid bare. From live stream trials to the questions you send. Justice and knowledge, it never ends. Spoons of justice, we balance them here. For the curious minds who hold it dear. Every verdict, every clue. Justice Served TV, we stand with you. 1 year strong, we're a family now. True crime answers, we show you how. Justice Served TV, where justice thrives. 1 year in, and it's changing lives. 1 year strong, we're a family now. True crime answers, we show you how. Justice Served TV, where justice thrives. 1 year in, and it's changing lives.
Well,
And we see that's Oasis cat who did that. We see Mizzy
Yeah.
in there. Jodene, we see you in there. You know, we're not singing tonight.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
thanks, Jodene, for joining our radio show. We
No,
appreciate it.
Missy says there's glitches all over StreamYard, so hopefully it's not me. User error. Let's hope not.
Yeah, well, we appreciate the effort and you popping in and out, and your insights are always great. We will call on you again, that's for sure. And Mizzy, thank you for Sandra Birchmore Central updates, as well as the information on some of these other cases in the Massachusetts hood there. It's disturbing, but we're lucky to have you guys help us kind of go through some of these things. There's Mizzy's connective material there on the screen. Okay then, partner.
Can I just say, everybody watch Dateline on Friday?
There you go.
Yes.
One last
Plug.
plug. There you go. Thanks, Mizzy, and we'll be checking that out. Okay,
Thanks, you guys.
Jodene, we're going to say goodbye to your black square now.
Oh, well,
Talk
it's
to
been
you
lovely
later.
chatting with you. You all
As
look
always.
fabulous on my end. And by the way, Linda, that 2 hours you did with Jimmy, that was fantastic. I loved it.
Jodene's gonna come
Loved
on the
it.
show. It's gonna be one night next week. I kind of teased it all because he was supposed to come on last week with Will, but he was a little tired. But yeah, we want to do it again. We never met. Jimmy and I, we never planned that. That was it. We just started and off we went. So
Oh, that was 2 hours of fabulousness. I loved it.
thank you. I just said let's get dressed together. So that's what happened. I never hear makeup less, but thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, you
Talk
guys.
to you
Sorry
later.
about the glitches.
No, don't worry about it.
All right. Have a good
All
night.
right. You too. All righty.
All right. So tomorrow night, 6 o'clock, we have a show that we've actually pre-recorded, right?
Tomorrow night is Jail Queen Donna, as I recall.
Yes, Jail Queen Donna.
Jail Queen Donna. Is she getting special treatment in jail? And and I just got today, I haven't even looked at them because they were coming in end of day. I got the latest records from her stay at Leon County. So I'll go over those in the next day and see what's in there. We were looking at, and you'll see tomorrow night with that special, that we were going through the records, what's, incidents, how she was treated. I have certain thoughts about whether she was getting favorable treatment or not. But that only went up to, I think, at the 8th or 9th. And now I have the subsequent week or two.
I see it next week, pre-tape. And the reason why
we'll see something
is because we had to go through pull the records and have to go through them. But guess what? I mean, you're going to see everything tomorrow night. I mean, at 6 o'clock, so just stay tuned. I'm not sure we have a portal yet, but it's coming. And
I think we might.
A lot of things coming over the weekend that we're going to release. So
we do. We have a handful of things. You've already mentioned one, and there's another one that I can't remember offhand. But anyway, they'll pop up if you're getting notifications. We're not sure what's happening. YouTube, you bastards. Anyway, so we'll continue to do that, and there may be, if there's some new stuff in this information on Donna Adelson, obviously we'll share that. She's there, in Leon County. She's going to be there. Sentencing may or may not be on October 14th when the PSI, the pre-sentencing information, or it's what's the I stand for?
It's information or report, investigation. Is
that what they call it? I know some call it PSR, some call it PSI.
PSI in different states it's called PSR, PSI, but it's the same. It's the same thing.
Pre-sentencing information. Yeah, gotcha. Okay, Oasis Cat, thank you so much for that. That's a lot of work. It is so much work, and even worse, you have to stare at us for a long period of time to put all of that together, all those little bits and pieces. So for that, I apologize, but thanks for taking the time for that.
Yeah, so what was our name of our episode tomorrow night? You named it.
I think it's Donna Jail Queen. Something like that. Jail Queen. Yeah. And remember the name Frugero. I think that's what it was. Or Frugero. Just remember that name from one of your paisanas.
Yeah.
Let's just say she's not a friend of Donna Adelson, and that comes out in the incident reports. So
168 clips. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
It's just remarkable.
It is amazing. Yeah.
I wish that could be the opening of our show.
Yeah. Back in the day when I was at Extra and we were going to do, you're doing a piece on somebody and there's a big history, we called it a vault assault because you had to go into the vault and get all of these clips from all of their projects and to do the package, and that is a vault assault. So thanks again, Oasis Cat. Appreciate that. All right, everybody, have a great weekend.
See you tomorrow night at 6, though. But
yeah, I'm trying to think. There's something else happening tomorrow night that I was going to promote. Oh, I know what it is. I'm glad I thought of this. Tomorrow is the premiere of the Universal Pictures Jordan Peele film, Him.
Oh.
And I've mentioned this before, but I will shamelessly mention it again. This is the film, and anybody knows Jordan Peele primarily from Get Out, which was very successful. He does these social commentary type stuff and blends it into his films. He did that, and they always have very short titles. There was Us. There was Nope. Anyway, very interesting style. The director of this one is not Jordan Peele. He's the executive producer. He's lording over it. There's a young new director called Justin Timmings, I think his name is. Anyway, and he was great to work with. So I did some work on it, not on camera. I was Jodene Weber, basically. That's Jodene Weber. So, but that's coming out tomorrow. I'm very curious to see how it looks. But it's about a guy who is like the king in the NFL quarterback world. He gets hurt. His career is ending. So they need to replace him. And so they find this guy. And let's just say there are some unconventional, maybe otherworldly assistance that he gets to replace this superstar. And the question is, one of the lines I had at one point, I'm sure it ended up on the floor. This guy's got some big shoes to fill, but I don't know, something about my gut tells me it's him. So that's the thing, him. So check that out at your local theaters. Okay, that's the plug. Anyway, see you tomorrow night when we do Jail Queen Donna. Michael Bryant here, Linda Kenney Baden.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, like.
I want to tell her to hit that subscribe. You be a sub, okay? In the lingo, having a lot of subs is good. Subscribe, share, like, notify, and comment as you see fit, and we'll respond as we see fit.
Yes, and that's always interesting. We are Justice Served TV. Please try to do the right thing.
Riding flames, they charge with mine.